All right, in our last video, we took a look at an overview of the sculpting tools in Cinema 4D. In this video, we're going to take a look at the brushes that we are able to sculpt with, and then also quickly look at masking options. So if I look around my model, so we talked about the sculpt tag and what we can do as far as accessing the layer manager. And so in this video, again, we're going to look at our actual sculpting tools, and those are right here in our brushes. I'm going to click on this tab to pull out a floating panel. And so, these pretty much tell you what they are. You have the pull brush, and it allows you just to come in and grab a selection based on the fall off within the brush. So when you click on a brush, it, like everything else, will show up in the attribute manager. And so right now I have a certain brush size, I have a fall off that I can control, and you see that in the little preview here. You can kind of see how that fall off works. I can obviously change my size, the pressure, and this particularly works well with obviously with tablets, which I'm not using at the moment. Also, we have options for buildup. How far does this pull compared to the maximum per time? So if I raise the buildup, I'm going to increase the amount of pull that is done with every stroke. So maybe I'm creating some kind of crazy alien here. I can really start pulling out the mesh. Do all that. And so that's the pull brush. Symmetry within these brushes is activated by the Symmetry tab. So you're able to come in here, choose the axis that you want to have it mirror. And then we have the grab tool, which doesn't really build up the mesh quite like the pull brush. It more allows you just to pull the existing mesh around. So you're not actually creating another layer of geometry the way you are with the pull brush. Note that the Symmetry does not hold across brushes. It's brush specific. So you can see it's not enabled here. The smooth brush is located here. It's also available at any time by pressing the Shift key. So this is really handy. It's one of the ones you're going to use the most. So if, for example, if I was in the inflate brush, which is one that you'll use quite a bit, I'm going to go ahead and turn on Symmetry and begin to kind of increase the mass in the cheeks here. So once I've pulled this out, if I want to smooth this back, I can press the Shift key and paint, or I can go to the smooth brush, and now you'll see it kind of brings this back in a little bit. So oftentimes you'll do this in the refining process. Again, you'll notice that I'll need to activate the Symmetry object per brush along with the smooth option. Next we have the wax option, and this is another good one for creating details. So this works to kind of add strips of buildup here. And so a lot of times, especially used in combination with stamps, it can give you some interesting details into the way it adds mass to our geometry. We'll look at stamps in just a moment, but you also have the pinch, which is another one that is good for creating kind of overlapping crevices and wrinkles and things of that nature. So you can just see it kind of tightens things up, pulls the geometry together, and can be really good at creating some nice detail in your meshes. Flatten kind of makes sense. Inflate, again, pretty popular. Inflate's one I don't use quite as much. It's kind of a pinching inflate. It kind of see how it builds up in a very peculiar way. So it's kind of, again, a tool that can work well with the pinch tool, other things to create rolls and overlaps, things of that nature. The fill kind of fixes any kind of gaps you may have between mesh, so it's almost like a smooth, but brings the geometry out to match places that are extended. And then you have special things like repeat, and this one, of course, is really good for using with stamps. Look at that just a second. Then scrape, which starts to eat away at the surface of your mesh. So let's look at repeat and talk about stamps real quick. So stamps are located in the presets, sculpting, sculpt brush presets, and there's tons of options here. Organic things like skin and reptile skins, all these kind of things. One that's pretty cool to work with is stitches and seams. Now, some of these, if you're not noticing an effect when you paint with these, maybe you're just seeing a really subtle effect, you may need to raise your subdivision level on your sculpt. So I'm just going to subdivide this one more time so we can really see the kind of quality and detail that can come out of using one of these tools. So all I have to do is double click on it. It loads it into the stamp tab and goes ahead and enables stamp. And so now if I drag along in here, you can start to see the detail of that stitching. And I might need to come in here and raise my build-up to see this even more. Let's try subdividing the mesh one more time and start to see how this works. So starting to look really good as we drag around and create the stitching on this mesh. So again, sometimes you have to have a pretty high subdivision level for some of these parameters to really show up. But you can get some really high quality detail using the stamps. So hopefully this has given you an idea of the brushes, the different brushes options we have. And really quickly, let's talk about masking while we're in here. So masking is in ZBrush and other sculpting softwares is oftentimes used as just another brush, and you can hold the control key and paint a mask in software like ZBrush. Here it's accessible using mask, and so now it brings up a mask brush, and I can paint my mask this way. So I can paint symmetrical mask, which is probably what I should do here. So if again I go to Symmetry, and now I could paint a symmetrical mask there. And you have options up here again. I can do mask invert, and then I could use one of my tools like inflate maybe to bring out kind of this mask shape. And again, probably would have been nice to turn on symmetry, but you get the point there of some of the things you can do with masking. And just note that this is not transferable across the levels. So if I increase my level or decrease my level, I'll lose that mask. Now when I take it back to the subdivision level, it'll come back, but it won't transfer across multiple subdivision levels. All right, so in this video we've covered the brushes and using things like stamps to allow us to paint using materials along our surfaces. And we've also looked at the masking options that are located in the Sculpt tab. So in the next videos, we'll take a look at baking out high resolution detail into lower, more manageable resolution models for animation and other things.